Let's bring on Connor O'Gara, our friend from Saturday Down South, on this lovely Monday across the natural state. Before we get into SEC stuff, Connor, I got to continue the theme that we ended last week on. We'll do Arkansas, Florida, SEC stuff in a moment, man, but I'm having trouble accepting a reality where Indiana shuts out any team, much less a Big Ten team. And when I'm thinking top 10 matchup in the Big Ten, the best game in the country this weekend, I would have never thought in a million years I'd be looking at Ohio State and Indiana as the best game that wasn't a basketball game, for crying out loud, on the Big Ten or even the entire country. And you and I both have Indiana Hoosier background, so just you want to opine mystically about your Hoosiers for a moment before we get into the Razorbacks and the Gators?
Yeah, Indiana football clearly is pretty much the story of the year in college football. I think we can all agree on that. No, I'm kidding. I think Arkansas is absolutely up there. But no, what has been able to happen so far this year with Tom Allen is just remarkable, and it's a reminder that coaching matters. And I think that see the change in that culture, a program that, as you know, there are certain programs that it's always, if something can go wrong, it will. And Indiana has finally gotten away from that. Now, I don't think they're going to win this weekend against Ohio State, but I've had so many people in the last 2-3 weeks texting me, Indiana football, legit, a real thing? And people that have never had any reason to care about Indiana football. And that tells you about the direction of this program right now.
Very well said. Very well said. All right, so now to Arkansas versus Florida, and it's next man up for a team like the Gators. And you get a real sense when you watch them, when you saw what Texas A&M did against Arkansas and how close the A&M Florida game was, when you see how Alabama's just blowing everybody out. There's a major difference this year, and maybe this is the case year by year, but you're noticing it big time right now. You have 3 elite teams in the SEC right now, and everybody else is just sort of, good to okay. And right now, Florida, this is the top offense in the country. I couldn't imagine one any better than what we saw Saturday.
I think it's Florida or Alabama in that conversation right now. And you could probably throw Clemson in there as well. But I think that Florida and what it is doing offensively, I think it took another step on Saturday night, because the big question that we had coming in, as soon as we found out that Kyle Pitts wasn't going to be active in that game, was, all right, what does this mean for Florida's offense? Nobody's really slowed them down all year, and is this Arkansas defense, which is extremely well coached and has been so prepared week in, week out, going to be the team that finally slows Florida down? And you look up, and Kyle Trask in the first half has 5 passing touchdowns and nearly 300 yards of through the air, and then you're looking up at game's end at 63 points. You're like, wait a minute, why did we ask that question about this Florida offense? Everything for them looks so incredibly easy, and it's not just Kadarius Toney making ridiculous plays, because he didn't really do that on Saturday night. If I had told you that Florida was going to score 63 points and that, between Kyle Pitts being out and Kadarius Toney having less than 60 yards, you would have been blown away. I think that's the thing about this team that's special, is that Kyle Trask just continues to improve. And anyone that doesn't have him in the Heisman Trophy conversation right now is doing so because of some preseason bias or something like that, because Arkansas fans saw it up close and personal. That dude is making throws at an elite level. They are scheming at an elite level. His receivers are making big-time plays. It's all working. Yeah, it feels like 2019 LSU a little bit. That's a thing that's going to get thrown out there too much in this day and age, but I was just blown away with what they were able to do against an Arkansas defense that, quite frankly, didn't really play that bad.
Last thing I'll get to, then I'll hand it over to SmackDown here. Is there any surprise at South Carolina making the coaching change right now with 3 games left? And maybe the only reason why you thought they might not do it now is for the amount of money left on Muschamp's contract. The pandemic and everything else that goes along with that financially for these athletic departments. But, when you see what's happened with Carolina and a total free fall right now, maybe it's not so much a surprise at all. What did you think of that change?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I thought that this was going to come down to how ugly it was going to get. this game might not have it might not have been make or break for Will Muschamp. There's rumors out there that they made up their mind after the Texas A&M loss and how flat they came out after a bye week top 10 team at home at night get blown out like that. I think that this was going to come down to South Carolina finally having enough momentum from its boosters to be able to say, look, this clearly isn't working. What's the point of continuing to pay someone $4.5 $5 million when, if you fire him after next year, you're still going to have to pay that money in that salary, and you're just, a year further removed from potentially turning this program around. So I think when you kind of add all those things up, you realize this move made sense, and South Carolina is now in a different sort of position. And, it doesn't have to replace a legend like it did with Steve Spurrier in 2015, but at the same time, this is a very unique situation now, and who knows what their financial goals are going to be. I tend to think that if you pay a $13 million buyout, you're not looking for a cheap way out, and that's why the list of candidates does include someone like Hugh Freeze, and maybe it will entertain someone like Joe Brady. But I think that South Carolina saw the writing on the wall. They saw on Saturday night, look, this thing is over, and it's not working, and it was time for them to ultimately make that change.
Speaking of Connor O'Gara here on halftime, Connor, let's get your thoughts on this this game coming up here for Arkansas. The LSU Tigers come into Fayetteville, and a lot of drama going on right now, both good and bad, and mostly bad right now at LSU. And it's just crazy. And Tommy Kraft on the Morning Rush brought this up this morning, and you documented kind of the same sentiments this morning on your post on Saturday Down South. This matchup is like the polar opposite of where both these teams were just 1 year ago. And it's crazy to think about that. A year ago, Arkansas was a 24, 30-point dog against LSU, and now they're a 2-point favorite just a year later. What's your thoughts on this Arkansas-LSU matchup next Saturday?
I just can't get over that. I can't. Things take longer to change in college football than what these two programs have seen from a year-to-year standpoint, and that just blows me away. But you look at why that change has happened, and I think part of it is because obviously, on the Arkansas side, Sam Pittman, we have praised the job that he has done, and the fact that you see the culture difference with someone like Sam Pittman as opposed to Chad Morris, a team that looks like it is truly motivated week in, week out, and there's not this disconnect. It's not just a bunch of guys kind of doing their own thing. That obviously matters. On the LSU side, Coach O, he was the obvious slam dunk, no doubt about it, National Coach of the Year last year. This year, I think he's done a pretty poor job in a lot of different phases, and I think that that's been alarming to watch his lack of control over this program and the fact that his big defensive coordinator hire that he said was going to be much better this year, and maybe that was rooted in some beef that he had with Dave Aranda, but saying that Bo Pelini's defense was going to be much better and to have it look this historically awful, yeah, that comes back to the head coach. It comes back to the head coach when you have a team that's just not disciplined, doesn't look motivated at all. That's the exact thing that we've praised Arkansas for. Effort matters. It's not all about talent. Effort matters at the end of the day, and right now you're seeing it in two very different ways with these programs, and that's why the results flip so quickly.
And I know you've been kind of vocal about this on Saturday Down South, and we have been too here. Is Sam Pittman still in the Coach of the Year conversation, even though Arkansas's lost this past Saturday, excuse me? Obviously wasn't coach or anything, but now you're sitting at 3-4. The best that this team could finish is 5-5, and I think that's what a lot of Razorback fans see this team finishing out and hopefully beating LSU, Missouri, and then probably falling to Alabama. Is a 5-5 year a SEC Coach of the Year resume for a coach to get?
There's no doubt in my mind it is. I mean, 3-7 would have been SEC Coach of the Year stuff for Sam Pittman. I make the case that his SEC Coach of the Year argument strengthened this past weekend because they suffered their first real, true blowout loss in a game in which he wasn't coaching. Now, obviously, he had input in game plan and all that, and I don't really know how much that result would have changed if Sam Pittman had been out there as opposed to Barry Odom leading things, but I think Sam Pittman is going to have someone, in order for him not to win SEC Coach of the Year, it's going to take two things. It would take Arkansas completely collapsing down the stretch, which I don't envision that happening, and it would take somebody like Lane Kiffin going 6-4 or something like that, and seeing a dramatic turnaround from one of those year one type coaches or something like that, where it just kind of catches us off guard. But as of right now, man, I'm not betting against Sam Pittman to win SEC Coach of the Year. I think that they ran into a buzzsaw, and they weren't necessarily in position to be able to slow down that Florida offense. And I don't think that people are going to truly hold that against them with how good they have looked week in, week out. So, yeah, the award still belongs to him as far as I'm concerned.
Real quick before we let you go, it's National Fast Food Day. We love talking about food on here. We've done it with you several times. What's Connor O'Gara's go-to fast food restaurant?
I mean, Chick-fil-A. Come on. I'm team Chick-fil-A all day. I just had Chick-fil-A sauce with my lunch, with the grilled chicken. That is our default. We're just in the process of moving right now into our new house, and you're not cooking a bunch of stuff early on, and that's you're going to Chick-fil-A for the quickest, best possible meal when the service is always going to be good. You're not going to have to wait 20 minutes and drive through. Even when they're backed up, they're good. The whole Chick-fil-A experience for me is worth it. Chick-fil-A and Qdoba all day.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned another restaurant, Connor. Otherwise, I think you'd starve on Sundays. Appreciate your time and everything you give with us here, Connor. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Connor.
Appreciate it, guys.